Morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Old Captain coming to you live from Crooked Creek with this week's Crooked Creek Hymn of the Week. Well, our theme this week is Palm Sunday leading into the Holy Week. And next week we'll talk about Easter and the resurrection. We're going to kind of put our study of Genesis to the side for a couple of weeks because this is what it's all about, okay? All the other leads up to this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. In the book of Zechariah in the Old Testament, in chapter 9, verse 9, it says, "Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, your king is coming to you. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey." Now, this was prophecy written tons of years prior to Jesus entering Jerusalem, but it describes his triumphal entry in where, as Jesus and his disciples approached Jerusalem, he tells a couple of them, going into town, you'll see a donkey and a colt tied up to a place, and you just get them and bring them to me. And if anyone says anything, you just tell them the master has need of them, and they'll let you have them. Now, folks, this wasn't coincidence. This was all prophesied in advance. And as we look fast forward in Matthew 21, I'm going to read a few verses under the topic, the triumphal entry. "Now, when they drew near Jerusalem and came to Bethphage at the Mount of Olives, then Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, 'Go into the village opposite you, and immediately you will find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Loose them, bring them to me, and if anyone says anything to you, say the Lord has need of them.' All this was done that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet Zechariah that I've just mentioned." Verse 6, "So the disciples went and did as Jesus commanded them. They brought the donkey and the colt, laid their clothes on them, and set him, Jesus, on them. And a very great multitude spread their clothes on the road. Others cut down branches from the trees, spread them on the road. Then the multitudes who went before them and those who followed cried out, saying, 'Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest.' And when he had come into Jerusalem, all the city was moved, and some said, 'Who is this?' So the multitude said, 'This is Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth.'" What they should have said was, "This is Jesus, the very Son of God, who has come to Jerusalem, who has come to the earth for one purpose and one purpose alone, and that is to be crucified this coming Friday for the sins of the world." That's why Jesus came. Wow. Holy Week, Palm Sunday. A good friend of ours shared that at her church in Florida that they actually cut down palmetto fronds and palm fronds, and during the course of their celebration on Palm Sunday, the children and the mothers walked down the aisle with these palm fronds, waving them and possibly saying, "Hosanna in the highest, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." Folks, the cross is a terrible thing. It's the worst. Crucifixion is the worst punishment ever. The Romans didn't invent it, but they perfected it. We'll talk about that a little bit more next week. But at this point in time, Jesus is entering Jerusalem. Why do you think he's on a donkey? What does a donkey symbolize? Bearing others' burdens. It symbolizes humility. It symbolizes being a worker for someone else. And all those things were certainly attributes of Jesus. So he could have come in on on a beautiful white horse, you know, prancing and dancing. But at this point in time, that wasn't the reason, and that wasn't appropriate. What was appropriate, that he fulfilled the prophecy from Zechariah that said he would come in humbly on a donkey. Well, they cried out, "Oh, worship the King." And so, ironically enough, I thought that would be a good choice for our hymn for the week. "Oh, worship the King" was written by Robert Grant, and he lived from 1779 to 1838. And the music is attributed, if that's what I understand this to say, to Johann Michael Haydn, who lived from 1737 to 1806. Folks, these words were like 200 years ago. But it doesn't matter if it's 200, 400, 600, 800 years ago, or 800 years from now, they're still appropriate, just like the prophecy was appropriate. So we're going to sing 4 verses of "O Worship the King." We're in page 16 if you're in this edition of the Baptist Hymnal. "O worship the King, all glorious above, and gratefully sing his wonderful love. Our shield and defender, the Ancient of Days, pavilioned in splendor and girded with praise. O tell of his might, O sing of his grace, whose robe is a light, whose canopy space. His chariots of wrath the deep thunder clouds form, and dark is his path on the wings of the storm. Thy bountiful care, what tongue can recite? It breathes in the air, it shines in the light. It streams from the hills, it descends to the plain, and sweetly distills in the dew and the rain. Frail children of dust and feeble as frail, in thee do we trust, nor find thee to fail. Thy mercies how tender, how firm to the end, our Maker, Defender, Redeemer, and Friend. Folks, that last phrase, thy mercies how tender, how firm to the end, our Maker, Defender, Redeemer, and Friend. I do hope and trust that Jesus is your friend. I do hope and trust that you have trusted him as your Lord and Savior, because he says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me." Wow. What a week. Holy Week, Palm Sunday, Easter to come, the crucifixion. But folks, Sunday morning's coming. So we just look forward through the week. I don't think any of us, well, I won't say that, few of us appreciated the crucifixion. Well, I won't even say that. Let me back up. We're going to rewind. The crucifixion was made more real and more live to many of us in the movie The Passion of the Christ than anything I've seen in quite a while. That's been many years ago. But I think for many of us, that was the first taste of what the Lord went through to die on the cross for us. And it's something that we don't ever need to forget. We don't deserve our salvation. We don't deserve his mercy. We don't deserve his grace. But as the song says, that's what makes it so amazing. Amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Well, that's another hymn for another day. And I just thank you once again for joining us this morning. Hope you had a great weekend. Looking forward to this week, and certainly looking forward to Easter to come. Have a blessed week. Thank you for your time. Share this with someone else if you will. And good Lord willing, we'll see you next week for the Crooked Creek Hymn of the Week. You take care and God bless.